Hey, what's up? Today I want to share my thoughts about Microsoft Recall, which is a newly announced AI features that is going to be released on Windows 11 that basically records everything that you do. And my current position in this is that you should be trying to escape most of the thing related with Microsoft and also large tech corporation. But in my case, I wanted to talk about it because it's very related to computers and AI, which is very interesting to me. And so ultimately, that's quite a relevant topic for me. So let's go right in. And so first of all, what exactly is Microsoft Recall? And Microsoft Recall is a new AI feature that is going to be released soon on Windows 11. And this new feature here is going to have the ability to record and take notes of everything that you're doing on your computer. And so that way, if you forget something, for example, you might lose the location of a certain file that you saved on your computer, or if you need some sort of assistance, then your computer will be there to recall you of whatever that you need to be recalled. And so the way I see it is that it's quite similar to kind of your browsing history if you're using the internet or some sort of web browser. But in this case, it's going to be not only for your web browser, but it's going to be for your computer and all your behaviors online. And so personally, as someone that spends a lot of time on my computer, when I see this kind of feature, I don't think that this is a feature that I'm going to actually need. And so as of right now, the way I see it is that I don't really understand the problem that it actually solves. And so here I'm going to speak for myself, but in my case, I love having an uncluttered space. I love having my things organized, and I like that my computer is properly organized because that's very important to me. And usually when I think about things, I don't necessarily think about going backwards. I mean, yes, recalling things might be important, but usually I try to think forward. And so when I actually need something from my computer, since I'm quite well organized, I usually remember where I put my things on my computer. And if I don't remember these things, then I can always, there's always this thing here that you can search. You can search for a certain file or whatever. And so I'm trying to understand the real use for this. And even my web browsing history, I don't really use it. I know that it works in the background for cookies or whatever. But my web history, it's not really something that I personally use that much. But I understand that Microsoft Recall records also your behavior and everything that you do. And so here I gave an example with a file or whatever, but I'm assuming that this new feature kind of works beyond just the Windows files or whatever. And so if maybe you're looking for an image or whatever, then you can recall some of these things. So ultimately, the way I see it is that Windows Recall is going to be some sort of extension of yourself. And so since you're going to have it on your own computer, Recall is going to recall everything about yourself, if that makes sense. And so since it's going to recall everything about yourself, then you're able to use some sort of AI to become your own personal assistant. It's quite similar to the phone that you might already have, but in this case, it's going to be AI with your own computer. But as of right now, just like I said, I don't exactly know the real use case scenarios where you're going to use it. As of right now, I think that yes, it might be useful, but maybe for some people that have some sort of memory loss, or maybe that have something like Alzheimer or whatever. But you see, like, that's not something that I see myself using, but we'll see how that goes. Now, the second thing that I wanted to talk about is privacy. And here, you don't have to be a technical genius to understand that This is a huge privacy vulnerability because with this announcement here, Microsoft is literally saying that your computer will be monitoring everything that you're doing. And yes, you might be able to turn it off or turn it on depending on what you want, but I'm assuming that by default it's going to be turned on. And so the way I see it is that it's quite similar that if someone was always watching over your shoulder to see what you're doing. And that can be a little bit creepy. And the fact that it's also recording absolutely everything that you're doing, that also means that it's going to record all your password, your banking information, your financial information, your medical information, your social media, your relationship. And so this AI here and your computer is going to know absolutely everything about your life. And obviously that's a massive privacy breach. And you obviously don't want hackers and even the people around you to have access to this. And so if, for example, you live in a family and you have a shared computer or whatever, then this feature is kind of problematic because you see, like if someone is doing something on the computer that is quite private, for example, bank information, and then someone else in the family or someone around you have access to this computer, then that means that they can have access to this AI feature that can recall all the previous things. And so if you're going to use this feature, you have to make sure that your computer is very private and that nobody other than you have access to it. And so yes, that being said, they also announced that everything that it's recording is going to be stored locally on your computer. And so this has to be verified because large tech corporations like Microsoft, they don't really care about your privacy. And so they're known to not care about your privacy. And so usually these corporations like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they usually take all the information and the data that they can because ultimately they take all this information because they can train their own AI and they can also sell all this information to third parties and to advertisements or whatever. And so I don't think it's in their own best interest to keep this thing private. And as of right now, with Windows 11, you already need some sort of online account to have access to Windows. And yes, you can use an offline account, but they make it very difficult for you to have an offline account. And so most of the time, you have to log in to your online account or your email, or your Microsoft email or Outlook or whatever. So that's one thing. And then also you have to keep in mind that OneDrive is also always working in the background to synchronize all your files with the cloud and with the Microsoft server. And so, like they're already doing it in a way. And I'm not even talking right now about hidden telemetry, but you see, everything is already in place for them to record everything and synchronize with their own server. And even if it's truly stored and encrypted locally, how long is it going to be that way? Like right now, they said that it's going to be local, but one day, like they might decide to flip the switch and decide that they're going to collect all this data, and they might say something like, oh yeah, we want to improve the user experience or whatever, and we're going to take all this data. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if that happens one day because everything is already in place for them to do it. Now, the third thing that I wanted to talk about is the hardware requirement. And to make these new AI features possible, it is said that we will need some sort of new hardware that is called NPU, which means neural processing unit. And this new unit and this new hardware is going to be integrated in the CPU. And this new hardware here, the NPU, is optimized for machine learning and also for artificial intelligence. And Microsoft, what they plan to do is that they plan to create this new hardware here to make the new Copilot Plus PC. Now here, I'm not very surprised because AI has been out and has been released for a while now, and this is quite something that I've been talked many times, and so I'm not very surprised. And the only thing that I would love to see is pricing of these hardware very expensive, or is it like reasonable or whatever? Is this something that people can actually use and afford at a consumer level? And so that's something that I would love to see. And that being said, from my own experience, in my case, I have a gaming computer, and so since I have a gaming computer, I obviously have a GPU, and so in my case, I've been able to use many AI features, and my GPU has been able to handle most of these things very nicely. And so for my own personal usage, I've been able to use GPT-4All, which allows you to run local AI without having to use the internet. And so in this case here, I'm using my GPU to run this AI, and it's free, it's open source, and I don't have to worry about using some sort of server or whatever. And so the only thing is that you have to download your own AI models on your computer, and then you're able to run everything. Another thing that I used is Stable Diffusion Automatic 1111 to create AI images with my GPU, and so I've been able to run both of these things without any problem. And you see, both of these things are able to replace Microsoft Copilot, but both of these things are free and open source, and they're running locally on your computer without relying on some sort of server or whatever. That being said, I understand that here I'm using my GPU, but I also understand that some computers don't have GPU, and they might not be powerful enough to actually run these things. So in my case, again, I have a quite powerful computer, but maybe not everybody is able to use these things. Another thing that we have to keep in mind is that GPUs are good at processing graphics. And so, yes, you can get away with using your GPU for doing AI, and that might work for a while, but I'm assuming that as technology evolves, I'm assuming that NPUs, which is the new hardware that is going to be released, at some point that I'm assuming that this new hardware is going to become quite mandatory for more recent computers, because it's going to become the norm, I think. And so the way I see it is that right now, Microsoft will use these new chips to run AI with their Copilot Plus PC. And I think that at some point in the future, more softwares and more video games will start using this new hardware and this new technology. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And so in my case, I don't think that I'll be rushing to purchase one of these new computers, because what I have right now, I feel that everything that I have right now is good enough. And so in my case, I have my GPU, and I'm able to run AI with my GPU. And so for now, it's quite good enough. And then the fourth thing that I want to talk about is Linux. And I want to talk about Linux because a few months ago, I made the decision to switch from Microsoft Windows to Linux. And I made that decision mostly because of all these privacy issues. And I think that in the future, it's only going to get worse. And so here, Linux is quite an alternative to Microsoft Windows. But Linux, the cool thing about Linux is that it's free, it's open source, it's private, and most of the distros, they don't collect data from you. And so I say most of the distros because some of them are slowly starting to collect data from you, so that's something to be careful about. But as of right now, I've been able to use Linux full time on my desktop, and I think that Linux is quite ready to be used for desktop. And so if Microsoft starts to worry you, then I would invite you to switch to Linux as well. And I already made a bunch of videos. You can look at my previous videos, and you can look into the Linux videos, and maybe these videos can be easier for you to make the switch from Windows to Linux. And so in conclusion, Microsoft is introducing new AI features that record everything that you do. And personally, I'm very worried about the privacy aspect of these new AI feature and these new release. They simply reinforce this decision that I made to switch to Linux a few months ago, because I think that Microsoft is only going to get worse. There's also this new thing called NPU, which are new chips that are going to be introduced, that are going to be optimized for the new artificial intelligence. And to be completely honest, I think that makes a lot of sense. But that being said, I'm already currently able to do everything that I need with a decent GPU, because again, I have a good computer. But I'm assuming that at some point these new chips will be a transition that we'll have to do, even though if you're not using Microsoft. That being said, if you're already outside of the Windows ecosystem, I don't see any point in rushing in getting these new Copilot Plus computers or these new NPU chip or whatever, because I think it's going to take some time for technology to evolve and for these chips to become more mainstream. And so as of right now, I think that we're going to be perfectly fine with using a normal computer with a CPU, with a normal CPU, and also with a decent GPU. And so that's pretty much it for this video, and I hope that this video was helpful to you. If this video was helpful to you, you could consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. And if you have any thoughts or comments, you can leave them below, because I will answer everything, and your thoughts and comments could also be valuable to other people. Alright, so that's it for this video. Peace.